It's day 68, challenge number 42 of this food challenge tour across the UK and Europe, and for this one, I'm in Slima, Malta, which is an island south of Sicily, Italy. And it's here I'm gonna find out if I have what it takes to finish this hefty looking sausage that's over 8 feet in length, and we're starting right now. What's going on? This is Magic Mitch, and right out of the gate, going with a bit of an unorthodox move there by taking down the fries first, which I'll get back to that in just a second. But first, for this food adventure, I'm at the Trees medieval XXL restaurant taking on their Big Mama sausage meal. Now this place does have a reputation for its massive portions, and it actually has several different food challenges to choose from. And at the time, I was in the mood for some sausage.
That's what she said.
And this big ol' honkin' thing looked like it was just going to do the trick. Which, by the way, this thing is 2.5 meters long, which is just over 8 feet. And if that wasn't enough, you have the fries, some veggies on the side, then there's also some German mustard on the plate as well, which is not required, but it was just something I wanted to try. But everything else with this challenge is required. If I was able to gobble up that sausage and everything else with this challenge within the 1 hour time limit, I would get the entire meal for free, and I would get my picture up on their wall of fame. So now, why did I decide to go with the fries first? Was there some sort of secret strategy? Or perhaps some secret insider info I learned before starting? Honestly, not really. It's just that there wasn't much space on my plate. So I just thought to myself, to heck with it. Let's just take them down and get them out of the way. Which, actually, they weren't half bad. And the fact that they were still pretty warm made them much easier to eat. But regardless, at this point in the trip, my whole sort of mantra and vibe was just to simply hold it together and squeeze out a few more victories before heading home. But yeah, just taking it one challenge at a time, and this was also the final destination where I would be doing challenges. I'll tell you what, before this whole trip was in the works, I never would have thought old Mitchy Poo here would ever end up in a place like Malta. No less in order to battle some epic food monstrosities. And when I arrived, the first thing I noticed, it's a little warm here. Well, let me rephrase that. It's a little warm for my comfort level, because I'm generally known as a warm-blooded individual, so to speak, or a better way to put it is that I'm, quote, that guy who wears shorts when it's snowing out, in the middle of winter, not because I want to or think it's cool, but pretty much because I have to, almost out of necessity, just so I'm not sweating like an absolute beast the entire time. And weather-wise here, we're talking like high 80s, low 90s, with some decent humidity. And let's not forget the all-important fact here, that with all these food challenges under my belt, I've turned into quite the chunky monkey. Which, by the way, is one of the main reasons why the food challenge shirts I'm wearing look a little baggy. It's because they're 2 to 3 sizes bigger than what I would normally wear. And that just sort of helps smooth out everything, particularly in the areas that have become less flattering. Your gut. But this is also why I prefer wearing gym shorts or sweatpants, just because they're a bit more comfortable and a bit more forgiving around the waistline. But enough about that, let's get back to the battle at hand. Now initially, when I started working on that sausage, it was a bit too hot to handle, so I figured I'd cut some of the sausage up into a few pieces just to let it cool off, because the last thing I need to do is melt the inside of my mouth. Then I also took some time to remove some of the toothpicks that were holding the whole sausage together, because you know, safety first here. And as far as how that sausage tasted, the flavor was good, but it was a bit on the dry side, which wasn't a big deal in this case, because I could just simply eat some of the tomatoes and the cucumbers with each bite, which would add in a little moisture, and that wasn't a bad balance flavor-wise either. Also, as far as that German mustard, it wasn't particularly pleasing on my palate. It was sort of a mild mustard with a little bit of a zip to it. It wasn't necessarily bad by any means, and as part of a normal meal, I'd be perfectly fine with it. But while being in such the rough condition I was in, and this tour in its final few days, I just didn't want to push my luck trying to finish it, since it would have been more of a hindrance than it would have been helpful. But that doesn't mean I was foregoing all sauces here. Instead, I'd be bringing out my new favorite sauce. That's right, I'm busting out the special sauce, which is a combination of both ketchup and mayonnaise. And by the way, after mentioning this in previous videos, I'm so glad to see that I'm not the only one who enjoys this combination. And as I like to say, to each their own, but I do find it to be such a very enjoyable sauce that I could use on just about anything. And in this case, it was no different, because it tasted great with that sausage. But not only did it help me get the sausage down, it also helped fight off some of that flavor fatigue. Also, I do want to take a moment to say thank you to everyone who came out and watched, and special thanks to Ryan and Mikkel, who showed us around Malta in between challenges, which, even though I was sweating like an absolute beast the entire time, it was very much appreciated. Vanquishing that monstrosity might have looked easy, but it was anything but. So if you enjoyed watching this video, the fun doesn't have to stop. Embark on another video at the end of this one or in the description down below, and I'll see you there.